I want to also ask you that if you have any questions, okay, if it pertains to what I'm talking about, and even a comment, okay, raise your hand. I will let you interrupt me. I would rather work from the questions you have, okay, and deal with those directly than tell my stories. Because I think your questions are more important than my stories. Yes?
Thank you for your service.
Thank you. That was a nice thing to say. Okay, yes? From the Army to becoming a school teacher? I'll give you the short answer. The combat experience was so sucky that it made me think that hiding in school would be a good idea. So I did that for 16 years, and what else could I do except become a teacher? Yeah, that's a lot of college. Yes, sir?
Did you ever feel guilty?
I think what you have just done is identify the one thing that messes with my head the most of all my experience. Okay, the idea of taking a life which you know is wrong, you know that's wrong, but you do it because you want to survive in that situation, but then you come back and you think about it, that just messes with me all the time. That's one of those things that never goes away. I know that killing is wrong, and yet I've killed. And so how do you rectify that? You know, you go, oh fine, I survived and I'm a happy person now, but does it make up for the taking of the life? Somehow I never thought it did. And so you walk around with that guilt. It's part of the service, I guess. Yes?
Did you miss the decision of going to serve the country?
No, I didn't. It was a time where before a volunteer army, and so the routine was that you would sign up when you were 18, and then down the line, 1, 2 years, if the country needed manpower, they would say, well, if you're going to college, we won't bother with you. If you're working in a very important job, we won't bother with you. Oh, you're not doing very much. I wasn't. I was setting type. I mean, it wasn't, you don't even have that job anymore. Computers took it away. But I was just working with my hands, making a good wage, but it wasn't important enough to keep me out of the service. And so I got drafted. Now, I had registered when I was 18 for the service, so I knew it was a potential. It could happen. And then 2 years later, I get the letter, greetings. Oh, I have to go into the military. Did I want to? No. I thought my mom, who was Canadian, maybe I should go up to Canada, you know. I could apply for Canadian citizenship and I could get out of this combat thing. Okay? I thought might not be a bad idea. I thought about it, but then what I also balanced out was my dad was superintendent of shipbuilding on the West Coast. He was connected to the military, and I would be an embarrassment if I did that to him, so that wouldn't be good. And also, if I didn't go, if I just put my foot down and said, no, I don't want to go into combat, they put me into jail. And so it's like, veteran or ex-con? What do I want to be? You know, well, to honor my father, mostly, to honor my father, I decided to go. It was okay because I ended up surviving it, so that was the good part. Yes.
If you didn't went to the war, how long would it take to
Uh,
jail?
Say it again.
How long would you be in jail if you didn't went to the war?
2 years, the length of your service. You can either go into the Army for 2 years, or if you refused, they would put you into jail for 2 years. And it was a military jail too. That was really sucky. Yeah. Yes.
How long was the war?
The war, Vietnam War, started in the 60s and it ended about 85, I believe. So that was a long time. Long time. When I was your age, growing up, as a 12-year-old, 13-year-old, that's all I heard on the news. Vietnam, how many died? They would keep a running tally. For years, they kept a running tally of how many died, how many wounded. Eventually, in the end, 58,000 died in Vietnam. Over 4.5 million served, though. Yes, sir.
How long were you
In Vietnam, I arrived in Vietnam December 20th, 5 days before Christmas in 1969. It was an odd Christmas present. When I arrived, I got to buildings that only had mosquito netting on the side. There was no walls. I thought that was a little odd. Of course, I was in a tropical climate, and they wanted to keep the bugs out so you could sleep nice, and okay, that's fine. We landed on an island, and there was these buildings. And I'm going, it's kind of funny, these buildings and that. What's up with the fireworks? The fireworks? Yeah, I see red lines, the fireworks. Oh, no, they're shooting rockets at the island. No, shooting rockets at, don't worry, they usually miss. Sometimes they hit, sometimes. Oh, I'm not feeling very comfortable with that. That made me a little nervous. The next day we went down to a place called Cam Ranh, or no, that was Cam Ranh Bay. We went down to a place called Long Binh Army Base. Long Binh Army Base at that time was bigger than the city of Seattle. Bigger. Me, I want to be stationed about, the university district because it takes a long time to get to the edge. No, didn't work out that way. I got the edge. Okay, and we had to protect the edge. That was our job. Okay, and so I'm at the Army base and we're going to protect the edge. Me, I'm going, I don't like that idea. They sent me up to guard duty one night, spotlight, you know, you're looking over the barbed wire, you know, you got your M16. Are you nervous? Heck yeah. Oh man, I'm going, I got a spotlight, but I feel like I'm lighting myself up. It's like, let's turn out the spotlight. We don't need the spotlight. You know, yes, sir. Yeah, well, that was it. That's exactly what I was describing to you. That being nervous about making yourself a target. No, but I was kind of being dumb because I was new and I had not experienced anything, so I didn't really know what to do. And that's where the rub comes in. You had the people that had been there in combat for a long time, and then you had people that were just coming in, and they were the new firsts, the new guys. Okay? I can't begin to tell you, the discrepancy made it very nerve-wracking, because you had people that knew what to do, and then you had people that didn't know what to do, and you had to learn very fast. Yes, sir? How did I end up being a science teacher? Well, because the experience of combat was so sucky, so terrible, when I came back, I decided that I wanted to go to school. And so I literally hid in school for 16 years. After 16 years of college, I figured there was nothing else I could do except for teaching. You know, I was relatively prepared for it. I did 16 years. Yeah, I would work part-time and go to school part-time. And the reason I would do that is because I didn't like people. People made me angry. And I have since then dealt with the anger issues. But before I was 35, coming out of Vietnam, violence and anger, that was what I knew. That was what I was trained in. Destroyed my first marriage. You know, I was not a good person at that time because I was way too angry and way too violent. And it took me many years to figure that out, what was going on. Yes, sir?
Did you get badly hurt?
In Vietnam, no, I didn't. I was lucky. I never got shot. I did have a watch taken off my wrist one time. There was some guy shooting at a group of us, and it hit my watch. And I got so angry that I forgot that I was being shot at, and I was yelling and screaming at the guy. It was a 3-day-old watch. This is very important. It was Seiko, had a metal face on it, had buttons and dials, and you could tell time in 13 different time zones all at once. Well, it lasted for a little while. The important part, though, is when I was so angry and standing up there, okay, I was exposing myself to fire, but I wasn't thinking straight. And so if I was ever to give you advice, is when you get angry, that is not the time to be making decisions, right? You kind of like to have it thought out ahead of time. Because if you make decisions while you're angry, you usually make stupid decisions. I've seen people get so angry they stand up in combat and get themselves killed. Okay, that's not real good. Okay, yes.
Did you ever see someone die like right next to you?
Yes, yes. I've been in situations where we've been overrun, where the enemy is running among you. And so you are desperately trying to thin the odds. I've only once was in a situation of bad timing. I flew in. I ended up being a photographer, so it was kind of cool. I got to tell you how that came about, though. But I flew in, and there was no flying out, so I was stuck there. And they knew they were going to have a battle. So I found a very safe position between two giant containers, and I did what I could when I saw the enemy in front of me, but I waited till the battle was out. Then my job occurred. I had to take photos of the aftermath. I photographed over 400 dead that day. They figured there was about 700 that attacked, but because we were ready for that attack, we came out on top, but the enemy lost a lot of manpower that day. Yes? Yeah, I served one guy that lived in Seattle. Weber was his name. And we stayed in touch for about a year after we got back, but then we reminded each other too much of the experience, so we kind of fell apart. And I know he still works down in Seattle. He works in the city government, so, but, you know, it's reminiscing about Vietnam. Him and I share stories, so it's a little too poignant. Yeah. Our area of operations was 3 Corps, which meant that we were around Saigon, now known as Ho Chi Minh City. Cu Chi up in the north end, and to the east was Swan Lock. And these are places in Vietnam. Saigon, I have to tell you, Saigon was a pleasant surprise. A French city. I was not expecting a big metropolis there. It's about half the size of Seattle, but it has 7 million people in it. So, and that was at that time. I imagine there's a lot more now. Yes, sir?
What do you mean by the warfare? Like, is like bad or?
Yes. You know, when you are in a situation and the only thing you're thinking about is keeping yourself alive, that's tense. Very tense. There's a lot of fear involved there, and you have to get past the fear and pull your courage together, and the fear doesn't go away. You try, but it doesn't go away. It makes you act safer, so it's not a bad thing. But at the same time, that intensity of emotion, that's what destroys you. That's that PTSD stuff. You've heard about it in the news and that, yeah. Well, that's the stress. That's the stress involved in that. If you are truly worried about living and dying, oh my gosh, it doesn't get any more stressful than that. Yes?
How were you feeling when you were going to Vietnam? Like, were you like when you got the letter and you're going to Vietnam?
Yeah.
How were you feeling?
You know, I'm glad you asked that because that'll get me into the starting of the storyline. Yeah, 2 years I'd been working from high school. High school, I graduated. I weighed 112 pounds. 112 pounds. Little guy. I was a little guy. Okay, and that was okay. I worked a couple years downtown. You know, it kind of worked out all my kinks. You get out of high school and you got your freedom, you know. And so that was fine. But then I wasn't doing a job that would keep me out of the service. So I got drafted. Now, you gentlemen, you have to register when you're 18 for the selective service. We have girls not yet. Okay, might be down the line, I don't know, but boys anyway, you have to register. And back then, when you registered for the selective service, that's where they got the military people. They did not wait for somebody to volunteer. They said, we need manpower, you're not doing much, so you're coming into the service. And so you had a choice, service or jail, which one?
Jail.
So let me see, ex-con or veteran, which one? I'll go for the veteran, please. And being dumb, you know, I figured that would be the best choice, and I still think it is. At the time, though, I was frightened. So frightened that I thought maybe I could go to Canada. My mom was a Canadian citizen. I could escape the service that way, but that would have embarrassed my father, who was, he handled all the shipbuilding on the West Coast, so he was connected to the military. Wow. So, okay, I'm going to go. And once I had made the decision, it was just kind of getting on the plane. I thought when I got there, I would get off the plane, somebody would hand me their M16, I'd go off into the jungle, and they'd get on the plane and go home. Well, it was a little bit more sophisticated than that. I did get there, and it was a little scary, but the best thing that happened was that although I was trained in artillery, I got the training so I could fire the big guns. When I got there, I showed everybody I could draw. I can draw, I can draw. Well, the people I trained with, they went on, and I got to stay in the Office of Information and Propaganda. Wow! I am no longer going to be pumping the shells into the big gun, going deaf, watching the bullets go out way far away. I am now going to get no gun. Wait, no gun. That doesn't sound good. We're going to give you a camera. At first, they were only going to give me a pen so I could write stories for a newspaper. I didn't do so good in language arts in high school. And so once they saw my writing skills, they made me the photographer. Okay, so I can do that, and they've taught me how to develop film and everything else, and the best part about it was that because my hands were busy with the camera, they made somebody come with me that was holding a rifle. I'm a photographer with a bodyguard. Oh man, that was cool. I'm going, this is not all bad. This has got to be good. The one thing I did not plan on, though, the guy that was my bodyguard, he had about 30 days left in country. Do you think he wants to go out where people are shooting? No, he doesn't. Do you think he's ticked off that he has to? Oh yeah, he was not happy with me. I'm the new guy in country, and I'm making him go out where they're shooting? No, that's not so good. We get on a helicopter. Let me finish the story, and then I will answer questions. I do see your hands. I want to acknowledge those. I got on the helicopter. This is exciting. Jet engine up there. Everything's vibrating. The helicopter starts coming up. We take the nosedive so the rotor digs into the air, and we start going off, forward. Okay, we got jet engines, so we're going forward fast. And then all of a sudden, this guy does one of these banks. Now, I'm strapped in, but I got to tell you, I am not comfortable with heights. And helicopters in a combat zone don't have doors. There's no doors. The guys are strapped in on the side, and they've got their machine gun, and there's another one on the other side, and they're strapped in. They're on the outside. They've got their feet on the rails, right? That's excitement. You know, but you're also vulnerable. There's no armor out there. Okay, but these guys are out there. We're inside. We're strapped in, and the guy does this. Now I'm looking straight down at the ground. There's nothing between me and the ground except this seat belt. Not comfortable. Okay, finally he levels out, and we get to where we're going, and the helicopter comes down. It's hovering about like this far off the ground. You know. Are we going to land? I don't know. This is my first time out, you know, so I'm very, very nervous. What are we doing? What are we doing? I'm waiting for Ron to tell me because I want to be told what to do. I go, what do we do? Well, the jet engine's doing. Nobody can hear me. And I turn to Ron and I go, what do we do? He's going, take the pictures. I go, oh, okay. And at that point, I turn around, I look at the helicopter, because it was about 40 yards out that I had to take. It was a helicopter crash. They wanted pictures all the way around, and then I go back to the intelligence unit, and they take a look at it and try to figure out what was going on with it. Okay, so we're out there, we've got, and I'm going, what do we do? And you know what the next thing that happened to me was? Specialist 4th Class Ron White who was my bodyguard to take care of me, kicks my patootie right out of the helicopter. Now, I'm not happy with that, but I had the foresight to protect the camera. Okay, I roll, I get back up here, I look back at the helicopter, and everybody on the helicopter is doing this. They go, Ross, take the pictures. Are they getting off? No, they're not. I'm very unhappy with that. Okay, the new guy. So I go out, I start taking the pictures from the rear end, I start working around, but what I didn't expect was that the pilot and the co-pilot who had died in the crash and the burning crash afterwards were still there. They were the grodiest looking, black, flesh, blood, eyeballs not in socket, and it's like that, all of a sudden, first time I'd ever seen anything like that, all of a sudden my gut's doing this. This is the first time this has ever happened to me too. I'm going, what's wrong? But what I was looking at something that was so terrible that I was getting sick. I threw up, right? And then I'm going, oh, yeah, you know how that just stops you. You throw up and you go, oh man, what's happening? Well, finish the pictures. Okay, so I finish the pictures and I go back to the helicopter. Now I get back on the helicopter. Every single guy on that helicopter was rolling. Oh, the new guy went out, and he's so delicate that he can't take a picture of a dead body. Poor little guy. Well, I got to tell you, that did not go down in my head. Even though I was a young man at the time, I was still a thinker. And I've got these people making fun of me doing a job for the first time. That's not going down right. But you know what's really not going down? Is that these people are so callous about death. They didn't really worry about the bullets or that. They'd been around it so long that seeing a dead body was nothing to them. Now I had a little problem with that. That colored my whole Vietnam tour from that point on, was that feeling of the men not caring about killing. Everybody had the reason. Yeah, we're going to stay alive. We don't care. And then they get all macho, Nah, they're not going to get me, But at the same time, then, oh, you're the photographer? Here,